Often we're in reactive cycles of survival, and that keeps us locked into these patterns because of the illusion of the safety that they bring. However, this takes a lot of energy on a mental, physical, emotional, spiritual level. Welcome to the Embodied Woman podcast with me, Rebecca Wilson. If you believe that fertile energy, creative power, and embodied, resourced, nourished women will change the world, then you are in the right place. This is a space to support you to arrive deeper into relationship with yourself and your body, to explore the multifaceted experience of womanhood. It is my mission to guide women back into connection with their natural essence, to become the living embodiment of their true nature. Are you ready to join a community of women who are taking responsibility for our lives, our energy, women who are centered and rooted in ourselves, connected to our womb space, and deeply nourished on a cellular level? If so, let's begin into this week's episode. Welcome to the community, my love. Hello, beautiful, and welcome back to the podcast. Today we are diving deep into the patterns of survival in women. And these patterns are archetypal, patterns of stories, patterns that have been carried forward in collective, cultural, and family systems too. And they're often patterns that can keep us stuck in survival mode, which prevent us from fully stepping into our power and really claiming that full responsibility over our own nourishment, energy, and overall vitality. So as we dive deep and explore these patterns of survival, we're going to be looking at how they impact our nervous system, our emotional and energetic bodies and beings, and also our spiritual growth too. So I welcome you to arrive into this journey together with an open heart and mind. Think not about it being an opportunity to gain information for the mind, but rather a space and a time to sink into some reflection, to maybe ask and get curious with some tenderness and gentleness where you may be living in patterns of survival and what might be ready to shift for you in your life. At the core of many women's struggle is the idea of these survival patterns. These are usually stories and archetypes that we continue to play into, often live deep within our subconscious mind or our psyche. They're patterns that we inherit, that we embody, that we take on, often mostly unconsciously, and therefore repeat them without truly knowing or recognizing that we are in a cycle of repetitive pattern. They often represent outdated ways of thinking, being, and acting, but often keep us in the feeling of being safe. While feeling familiar, they're mostly, if not always, misaligned with our true potential, our needs, wants, and desires, and our core values. Often these patterns of survival emerge in our childhood, as most patterns do, if not that they have been born before our time, in that they've been passed down generation upon generation through the lineage of women or the family system that we are born into and from. But over time, when we are in a system of people or in an environment or a place or a culture or a society that enforces and encourages these patterns, they tend to continue to self-fulfill and therefore solidify the belief that is living inside of the behavior. These keep us in these locked states within our body and our nervous system, often we're in reactive cycles of survival, and that keeps us locked into these patterns because of the illusion of the safety that they bring. However, this takes a lot of energy on a mental, physical, emotional, spiritual level. And it can often leave us feeling drained, exhausted, ungrounded, stuck in relationships or work and life circumstances that feel disempowering, unaligned, not the truth of what we desire to be living in or as in our lives. They can show up as the little girl, the maiden, and the victim. There's many other archetypes, but I would say these are the three that most women find themselves stuck in. They're very powerful archetypes that are etched into the female psyche, and they represent different facets of survival patterns and survival strategies that play out in our thoughts, words, actions, and behaviors. So let's dive into the little girl archetype first of all. Often, this is showing up as a deep-seated need for approval, validation, and nurturing outside of oneself. The little girl archetype represents innocence in her light and true nature, but in the shadow can represent dependency, a part of us that is afraid to fully grow up and take responsibility for our lives. For many women, this energy shows up when we feel unable to make decisions for ourselves and therefore seek approval from someone or something external. We're seeking constant validation from authority figures, partners, work colleagues, and friends. We struggle to take ownership of our own nourishment and well-being, waiting for someone else to rescue us or tell us what to do. The little girl lives in the nervous system of freeze. So the nervous system of this archetype, if we will, or this energy that's embodied, is in the freeze response, where the body and the system feels stuck, unable to move forward, waiting for someone else to do something, make something right, or save us. And it can show up as patterns of people pleasing, helplessness, passiveness, or fawning to the external world or experience or relationship that we are in. So take a moment to reflect. Where do you still feel like you show up as a little girl in your life? Ask yourself, where am I waiting for permission to step into my full womanhood and take responsibility for all parts of myself? And the next archetype is the maiden. So the maiden is the youthful, the vibrant, full of energy and potential, but it is also an expression of naivety. The maiden archetype often be in this place of full possibility. Everything is possible. However, when imbalanced, this energy in its shadow, because of course being connected to the potentiality of life is a very expanded and light place to be in the system and in this archetype. But when in the more shadow space, the maiden archetype carries this unconscious belief that life is happening to her and not for her. This leads her to resist stepping into responsibility because to be responsible means to grow up, to face hard truths, to confront fears, and to face the reality of life. To mature is a very sobering thing for us to do. And it kind of asks us to step out of that drunk state of being, that state that is illusionary and full of false layers, and really sober up to the reality of existence. So what that doesn't mean is that we are not connected to that potentiality of life, because that is a very mature maiden aspect or archetype. But that also needs to be rooted in responsibility and sobriety of life. The maiden in the nervous system is linked to fight or flight response. There's often an anxious energy in her body and a desire to flee from discomfort, to run away from the unknown. So this is where there's an inability in the system to be with the discomforts of life. So we could be trying to flee physically or energetically or emotionally, to flight away from the reality of the moment that we are living in, the pain, the discomfort, the emotions, the experience. There's a real pattern of running away, unable to turn towards and face. And while the maiden isn't stuck like the little girl was or is, she can be very reactive. And in that reactive state, often blaming external circumstances for why things aren't the way she believes they should be, or they're not working out the way that she believes they are meant to be. And that can also be a disconnection or a disassociation from reality, because things are as they are, not as we think they should be. We see in the shadow maiden archetype in women who are potentially stuck there an avoidance of conflict or difficult conversations, thinking if you just leave them, they'll resolve on their own, a jumping from project to project, relationship to relationship. There's this ever chasing something new, but never truly feeling satiated or satisfied when you get there. Again, a resistance to stepping into full responsibility of their health, energy, and vitality, hoping that things will just fall into place. Like everything will be okay. I'll just turn my face away, not look at this situation in full detail. And one day, maybe everything will just happen and it will be perfect. And I won't have to have taken any responsibility or taken any action or leadership of my own life. It will just fall into place. That is delusional and disembodied and disconnected from the power that truly lives within us, being able to take responsibility and steps towards nurturing ourselves into full vitality and radiance. So take a moment to ask yourself where in your life you may still feel like you're in this maiden energy. Where do you possibly avoid responsibility for your energy, health, emotions, or for your life path? Where are you just waiting for it all to figure itself out without taking any cause of action or change, creating change in your life? And then we move on to the victim. So the victim is, we could argue, the most disempowering archetype of all. And it often runs a thread throughout all of the shadow aspects of these archetypes. The victim believes that life is against her, that she is completely powerless to change and does not have any power over changing the circumstances of her life. This energy is resigned and defeated, with the belief that no matter what she does, she will never be enough, that the world is just too hard for her to thrive in, and that it is pointless to take any form of action towards change, responsibility, or ownership of her life. When we see this pattern in a physical body, it shows up as chronic stress, tension, and burnout. The nervous system has either been or still is in a constant state of hyperarousal, where she feels unsafe, defensive, and constantly on high alert. When the body is in this state for too long, it uses up all of her cellular energy, imbalances hormones, and has drained her vital life force. As we can feel, it really does take a lot of energy to be in these states. And therefore, even if we are trying to work towards nourishing ourselves, being in a constant loop like this is like an opening of a tap and a pouring out of your vital energy and life force constantly. The victim in women blames others or circumstances for their unhappiness or their lack of progress in their life or their healing journey, is constantly feeling drained or burnt out, but doesn't take action to change the root underlying causes. So she may take action on taking the next new supplement or, shiny new like advertised product and thinking that that will be the thing that saves her. But she's not stepping out of the loops of pattern or thought or in the environment that's been created that is actually the drain and the thing that's depleting her the most. The victim often stays in relationships or jobs or friendships that aren't healthy because she feels too disempowered to leave. So take a moment to feel into where you might be in this victim energy in your life. Where are you giving your power away? Believing that you do not have the power or the control to change the situation that you're in. So the beauty is that we can move beyond these patterns. The truth is, these patterns serve us to a point. They work until they don't work anymore. And they're often there because they did work really well as a form of survival, as a form of safety. Often in those formative years where we were in some kind of experience that, impacted us in such a way that we felt we needed to protect or survive. They do protect us from emotional harm or upset. They keep us disconnected from ourselves and then, of course, the world outside of us. But eventually they become a prison that we're locked into. And the key to open that door is becoming aware of the patterns that we're in, the archetypes that we're embodying, and why we might be embodying them. And from there, with the awareness, we're able to make a conscious shift and begin to make new choices for our lives. We do this through nervous system healing and awareness, as we can't move out of survival if our body still believes it's in that constant state of threat. And this is where we use practices such as embodiment, nervous system regulation, somatics, and kind of body awareness practices to reorient our attention away from the old and into the new. This helps us to move out of a reactive state to life into a responsive state to life. The next step would be to take full, radical responsibility for your energy, your nourishment, your life, and your well-being. This isn't a place of blame or shame to self or anything outside of you. It's an opportunity to mature through our wounding and step into our full power as an embodied woman. It's a step where we stop looking outside of ourselves for approval, like the little girl, stop running away from discomfort, like the maiden, and stop giving our power away, like the victim. We truly bring ourselves back into our body and our center, and this allows us to walk a path of transformation. This absolutely is not a journey of perfection, and I really want to highlight that deeply. It's becoming aware of choice and knowing that we can choose differently in every moment when we've cultivated enough awareness, created enough space between ourselves and the experience or the emotion, and we take consistent, sustainable steps towards freeing ourselves from that internal prison that so many women have found themselves bound or locked in. And along that journey, both nourishing the body on a physical, physiological level and also an energetic and emotional level becomes essential to support the system, the whole body system, to have enough energy to move through these patterns, beliefs, karmas, and archetypal expressions that we found ourselves in. We do have the power to rewrite our story in any given moment, but often we need to find a place or a space that allows us to be seen and supported enough to do that. To take those first steps are the most scary, but the most important things we'll do. And this is why I offer the spaces in which I do for the women that join me on this journey of full body, heart, soul, spirit, physiological nourishment. It's a much more of a nurturing experience than just the food that we eat or the supplements that we take. It's a whole body, multifaceted approach to reclaiming our power and sovereignty as women. And at this time, I have some limited places for women to join me in my Radiant Reclamation individual mentorship. So if these patterns of survival have resonated with you and you're feeling in your body that you know it's time for a change, for a shift, I welcome you to reach out, connect with me, let's talk, and let's work through what it is that's possibly holding you back from living a life of your dreams. I've popped the link for the individual mentorship in the show notes of this episode. So scroll on down, click there. You'll get all the information you need about how, what, why, when. And there'll also be a link there for a connection call. So should you feel the call, the pull, click the link. Let's book a call together. Make sure we're a right fit and we can begin this journey of radical reclamation and the restoration of your radiance. All right, my love. Send in so much love. Have a beautiful day. Thank you for joining me on this journey today. If you loved this episode, please share it far and wide with your sisterhood and community. You can dive deep into all of my offerings via rebecca-wilson.com. Links to all offerings are below in the show notes of this episode. If you would love to support the podcast, please like, subscribe, download, and share the episodes so my work and this message can reach more women around the world. Remember, my love, you are here to live a life fully, deeply inhabiting your body and your divine nature. I am here to show you how. Hey love, I'm just dropping in to share that the doors are open for the waitlist for the next round of Embodied Woman Group Mentorship. This is a journey like no other, a deep dive into embodiment, somatic awareness, self-honoring and healing practices, the journey of remineralization, awakening your feminine energy and restoring the resources within your heart, body, wombs, cells, and overall vitality. This is my signature program, which launches twice a year. There are limited spaces for the intake. If you're feeling the call, head on down to the show notes in this episode, click the link and join the waitlist where you will receive more information soon. Hope you enjoyed the episode of this podcast. Sending you so much love. Have a beautiful, vital, and nourishing day.